Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to write a Python program that can make audiobooks in both male and female voices. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what our program is going to do. It's going to be able to do. So our program is going to be able to create audiobooks in both male and female voices, and it's going to be able to come to our desktop environment and check if there's a folder named audiobook. If there's a folder named audiobook, it's going to save all the audiobooks that we create to that folder. But if there's no folder named audiobooks, it's going to create a folder named audiobook, and it's going to start saving all the audiobooks that we create with the program to that folder. So the first thing that we are going to do is create a project folder, and inside that project folder create a Python file. I named my project folder Python audiobook, and inside that folder I created a Python file named audiobook. Once you've done that, open the folder with your code editor. I use VS Code, so this is it. Now we're going to be using two modules to write this program. The first module is OS, so we're going to say import OS. The second module that we're going to use is Python text to speech, which is PyTT-SX3. So we're going to say import PyTT-SX3. If you don't have PyTT-SX3, don't bother. Don't worry, sorry, I'm going to show you how to install it. Go to your command line. In your command line, cd into your desktop environment. Once you're inside your desktop, run the command pip install PyTT-SX3. If that doesn't work, try pip. If that doesn't work, try pip3 import PyTT-SX3, and just wait for a few seconds, and it's going to install quickly. So now we've imported OS and we've imported Python text to speech, but we need to initialize this PyTT-SX3 module before we can use it. So we're going to say engine is equal to PyTT-SX3.init. So we've initialized it now. Let's talk about how our program is going to work. So our program is going to be able to accept some inputs from the user. The first input that it's going to accept is the name of the audiobook. That is what the user wants to name that particular audiobook. So we're going to create it, and we're going to say audiobook name. We create a variable named audiobook name and assign it to an input tag, and then we're going to say enter audiobook name. So this variable is just going to collect the audiobook name. Now when the file is being saved, it's going to be saved as the name that the user enters here. Now the next variable or the next input that the program is going to collect from the user is the content. Now it is this content that the person inputs that is going to be converted into text, into an audio file, either email or female voice, depending on what the user picks. Now we're just going to create a variable and call it content, and we're going to equate that to an input tag, and then inside here we would say content. Now I put this print function here, or this print statement here, because since it's a terminal based program, I want space to be in between each input, in between each output that we see in the terminal. So the next thing to do is that, okay, we've written two lines that collect the audiobook name and the content of the audiobook. Now the next thing we need to do is that we need to write the particular code that is going to be able to come to our desktop environment and check if we have a folder named audiobook. And if there's a folder named audiobook, it's going to just run the code inside the conditional that we write. But if there's no folder named audiobook, it's going to create a folder. So let's get right into it. The first thing that we need to do is get the list of content inside our desktop environment. And to do that, we would first create a variable, and we'll call it desktop content. Now this is where we start using the OS module. So we say desktop content and we equate it to os.listdir. I'm going to explain how this works. So I'm going to say C users Ayodeji desktop. Now, how this works is that this os.listAR function goes to a particular directory, or it goes to a particular folder that you put in this parenthesis. This is a file path to my desktop environment. This is my desktop environment. So I've put the file path to my desktop. So what it does is that it goes to my desktop environment, get all the content inside my desktop and put it inside a list. So that way the program is able to show the content, that is everything that is inside my desktop. So the next thing to do is that we need to write two conditionals. One to check if audiobook is inside the desktop, and one to check if it is not inside the desktop. So we're going to say if audiobook if audiodio if audiobook in desktop content, that is if the audiobook folder is inside desktop content, run this code below. Sorry, let me just readjust this. Yes, so now we're saying that okay, if audiobook is inside if the audiobook folder is inside our desktop environment, run this particular code below. So we now want the program to ask the user, do you want your audiobook to be made in a male or female voice? So we're going to write we're going to create a variable that collects it via an input tag. So we're going to say male female voice is equal to input. Do you want a male or female voice? Then inside parentheses we're going to put male slash f and colon. So what this line does is that it's going to be able to ask the user, do you want a male or female voice? So now we're going to write a conditional for creating audiobooks in both male and female voices. That is, we're going to say, okay, if the user inputs that is, if the user wants a male voice, do this program, or if the user wants a female voice, run this program. So I'm now going to say if male female voice is equal to m. Now if male female voice is equal to m, run this particular code below. Now this is where we are going to start using our PyTT SX3 module. It is this module that we're going to use to actually create the audiobooks. Now the first thing that we're going to do is actually start setting things and setting properties for what we want our voice to sound like. So we're now going to say engine.set property. I'm going to explain this. .set property, and after doing this we're going to say rate and then comma 125. So what we're saying here is that if you remember from the beginning, we initialized our Python text-to-speech module and we assigned it to a variable named engine. Now if we come here, we're saying that okay, we'll set the rate of this voice that we're using to this particular number 125. That is, we're setting how fast the voice is going to be. So we use the engine to set property function, and then inside parentheses we're not going to use rate comma 125. So now we've set the property for how fast we want the voice to be. The next thing to do is that we need to actually set what voice we want our audio file to have. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to get this particular property called voices. So we're going to say, we're going to create a variable and name it voices. We're going to say voices is equal to engine dot get property. Now remember, here we set property because we are setting the rate to this particular number, but here we are getting a property. So we're going to say engine.set property, and we're going to say voices inside the parentheses. Now after doing this, we're now going to set what voice we want for this particular audiobook, that is if the person inputs male. So we're now going to say engine.set property, then inside this parenthesis we're now going to put voice. I'm sorry, let me remove this. So inside this parenthesis we're going to say, okay, we want to set the property voice, then comma, we're now going to say voices list 0. We're going to say voices in a list, then list 0 dot id. What we're saying is that, what we're telling Python is that, okay, we want to set the property of voice, and we want to use a particular voice. We want to use the male voice, and to use the male voice we write this code voices, then inside a list we put 0. 0 represents the male voice, which is the first. Then if you want the female voice, you are going to change this 0 to 1. Now we're going to be doing that in the next conditional that makes an audiobook in female voices. Now we've said that, okay, Python sets the property of the voice we want to a male voice. Now we're now going to come down to another line, and we're going to tell Python that, okay, when you are saving this file, save this file to this particular folder or this particular directory, because in this conditional we're treating it in a way that, okay, we already have an audiobook folder. So we're now going to say we're going to create a folder, a variable named save file, and inside this variable we're going to say os.chdr. No, first of all, before we do that, we're going to tell Python that, okay, we change where you are to the desktop environment, that is, change where you want to save this file to the desktop environment. So we're going to say os.chdr, and then we're going to put the file path to my desktop environment. So I'm going to come here and copy everything inside this parenthesis, and I will come down and paste it. So now Python is going to change its path to my desktop environment, which is this place. So after doing that, you are just going to come to this next line, and you're going to tell Python now, okay, after changing your directory to this place, this is where you want to save this particular new audiobook that I created. So we're going to create a variable and name it save file, and we're going to say it's equal to. Now, the reason why I put this F before the quote is that we want Python to save this particular file in this format. Now I'm going to explain more as we write the code. So I'm just going to paste this here. Okay, let me adjust this. So I'm going to paste this here, then I am going to say /audiobook/ then inside curly brackets audiobook name. So what this line is going to do is that it's going to go into this file path, it's going to enter the audiobook folder, and it's going to create this particular file. We're going to say audiobook.mp3. So it's going to go into the audiobook folder and create an mp3 file, and the mp3 file is going to be the name of what we set it to be in this inputs place. When we said enter audiobook name, you can see audiobook name here, and then that is why you can see audiobook name.mp3. So whatever you input, an mp3 file is going to be created using this particular name that you inputted earlier. So the next line that we're now going to do is that we're actually going to save this contents, that is all the text that's been converted into audio. We are going to save that audio to this particular mp3 file that was just created. So what we're going to say is we are going to say engine.save to file, and then inside this parenthesis, what is collect is the first thing that is collect is the contents. So the first thing that we're going to write inside here is content, because earlier we created a variable named content and it collects the content from the user. So content, let me correct this. So after it collects the content, the next thing that it collects is the file name. So we're just going to put save file here. Now I'm going to explain why we put it. If we hover inside this parentheses, can we see it? What this base function basically collects is, the first thing that it collects is the content, that is the text. Then the second thing that it collects is the name of the audio file that you are creating. So now inside this variable, we already assigned this variable to this particular file path, and inside this file path we've already told Python that okay, create an mp3 file by the name of what the person inputted here. So now when we're saying when we now come down to this line, we're telling Python that okay, engine.save to file, then collect the contents that the person has said, convert it into an audio file, and save it to this particular location. Now when you run the program, it's going to, whatever you input is going to be converted into an audio file and saved to this particular mp3 file, which is audio name whatever you input .mp3. So what we now need to say after that is engine dot run and wait, and then after that we're going to say engine dot stop. So now we've written the code that can make audiobooks in male voices. Now we said that we wanted to make audiobooks in male and female voices. So what we're simply going to do is that we're going to copy all this code, and then we are going to just do Ctrl+C, and we will come down here. That is, we need to put another conditional here. That is, else if the person wants a female voice, run this code. So we're going to say if male female voice equals F, run this code below. But you remember what I said earlier, we need to change these voices inside this list to 1. 1 represents a female voice and 0 represents a male voice. So what this does now is that the first conditional that we've written here, that is to check if an audiobook folder is present, we've already written everything here. That is, it can make a male and female audiobook, it can make male and female audiobook files now. But we need to also write the conditional to check if this particular audiobook folder is not present in the desktop. So we're going to say if audiobook not in desktop content. So if audiobook is not in desktop content, run this particular code below. So what we need to do is we will just come here to the beginning, and instead of writing all this code again, we will just copy it. Now I am going to show you what changes that we are going to make. So after copying it, we'll just do Ctrl+C, and when we've done Ctrl+C, we will come here and we will paste everything inside. But this code is supposed to check, is supposed to function if an audiobook folder is not present. So what it's going to do is that we're going to say, okay, since if audiobook is not in desktop environment, in desktop content, we're going to say os.chddir. That is, change where you are and go to this particular file path. We're going to go to C. Oh, sorry for that. We're going to go to C. Okay. Users Ayodeji desktop. So I'm telling you that okay, if an audiobook folder is not inside the desktop environment, go to the desktop environment, that is os.change directory, go to the desktop environment, and they will now say os.mkdir, that is os.make directory, and then here we're going to say audiobook. What this means is that, okay, we've told Python, go into my desktop environment, check if there's an audiobook folder. We now said else if an audiobook folder is not present in desktop. We're now saying that we'll change where you are and go to this file path, which is my desktop, and make a new folder named audiobook. Now this code we have written is 99 lines, and that should be all that we are going to talk about today. Let me just zoom out to get a clearer view of how everything looks like. Okay, so this is all the code we have written. So we're going to actually run this code to test it, to see how well it works. So I'm just going to zoom back in, and I'm going to bring out my terminal. So I'm going to come here and say terminal, new terminal. So I'm just going to pause here and wait for my terminal to get ready. Okay, so I have run the code, and as you can see, the first thing it's asking for is enter audiobook name, which is this. So I am just going to minimize to show you that the code is working perfectly. So I'm going to show you, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to make an audiobook named the Proton guy. Let me go back and type that wrong. So now I want to make an audiobook titled the Proton guy. I'm going to press enter. Then it's asking me for the content. So I am going to say subscribe to my channel and like my videos. So I am going to press enter. Then the next thing it's going to ask me is, do you want it to be a male or female voice? Now I'm going to say female. Now notice that I don't have an audiobook folder. I didn't have an audiobook folder before, but it was created for me. Now if I say female and I press enter, just watch what will happen, and you can see the program has stopped running, but an mp3 file has been created for me inside the folder. So I'm just going to open it, and I am going to show you as you can see, inside the folder there is an audio file named the protonguy.mp3. So if I run this, let's see the output of that. So let's wait for it to load. It's loading. Let me increase my volume. It's loading.
Subscribe to my channel and like my videos.
Did you hear that? It said subscribe to my channel and like my videos. Now let's try out one more thing. Let's say I want to create an audiobook named YouTube. Let's do that, and inside YouTube is going to have some content I'll think of. Let's try that. Okay, so the first thing is going to ask us to enter the audiobook name. So I'm waiting for the program to respond. So I'm going to say YouTube, and I'm going to press enter. Then it's going to ask me for content. I'm going to say I am a YouTuber and I love posting helpful contents. I'm going to press enter. Then I'm going to say I want this in a male voice. So it's going to create this particular audiobook for me and it's going to be a male voice. So let's listen to it when the program finishes running. It's saving everything now. If we check the folder, let me see. You can see there is an mp3 file already created named youtube.mp3. so I am going to check. Okay, I am going to run the mp3 file now, and you are going to listen to the male voice.
I am a YouTuber and I love posting helpful content.
Yeah, so as you can see, it's converted that text that I typed in here to speech. So now when it's created the audiobook, notice that it didn't create another folder named audiobook. It automatically saved that newly created audiobook file inside this audiobook folder. So our program works perfectly. It creates a folder named audiobook if there is no folder named audiobook present, and every audiobook that it creates, it saves it to this folder. So that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and if you like seeing content like this, please come back for more. Share, like, peace. And don't forget, if you want to get the code for this particular video, check the link in it. There's a link in the description below that takes you to my GitHub. Peace.
Where are you?